Jichuan is a limited S-class Catalyst Tendency Sinner who deals physical damage. She mainly acts as a support who grants and applies various buff and debuff. And when I said various, there are a ton of them. Whether it's offensive, defensive, or energy support that you are looking for, Jichuan probably has it. She's the first Sinner to be able to provide support to all elemental damage, making her kind of like Avatar or something. Other than that, she also has a synergy with Overlimit team. However, this is not really her main thing. Jichuan characteristic is that at the start of battle, she deploys Mortal Formation. This relates to her main mechanic on her ultimate, which I will explain after this, so stay tuned. If equipped with Overlimit Potestas, Jichuan gains 6 Overlimit value per second. Jichuan Mania intensifies that her energy recovery speed plus 10%, standard for a Catalyst support. However, if equipped with Overlimit Potestas, for every 1% increase in Jichuan energy recovery speed, her Overlimit value recovery speed also increased by 1%. This synergy is quite strong since Jichuan has a lot of energy recovery speed buff, which can reach almost 100% from her own skills. But at the same time, this is basically the extent of her synergy with Overlimit, so don't worry, even without taking advantage of this part of her characteristic and Mania Intensify, Jichuan will still perform very well. Jichuan has two main mechanics, 3 power formation and 3 power synergy. 3 power formation are related to her ultimate and can be enhanced by her passive 1, while 3 power synergy are related to her passive 2 and can be enhanced by her exclusive Crime Brand. Let's start with her ultimate first. Jichuan deploys 3 power formation, switching between Heavenly Formation, Earthly Formation, and Mortal Formation. Each formation grants different buff to all allied sinners as long as they are in use. Heavenly Formation grants all allied sinners attack plus 10 to 20%. Earthly Formation grants all allied sinners damage taken minus 10 to 20%. And Mortal Formation grants all allied sinners energy recovery speed plus 10 to 20%. Now, if you remember, the characteristic mentioned that Jichuan by default will enter the battle with this Mortal Formation. The idea is to switch between this formation depend on your situation. For example, you can switch to Heavenly Formation during the core break window to deal more damage, or switch to Mortal Formation to have more sustainable ultimate and buff for a certain sinner. Indicator wise, you can always refer to the symbol under Jichuan's feet. Black circle for Heavenly Formation, black puddle for Earthly Formation, and red flower for Mortal Formation. The ultimate has a high cost of 36 energy, but since Jichuan has a lot of energy recovery speed bonus, you don't need to worry about this. The effect of this ultimate can be enhanced further by Jichuan passive 1. After casting ultimate, the formation currently in use enters activated state for 10 seconds. During the activated state, the formation effect will be enhanced by 50 to 100%, basically doubling the effect at level 10. Indicator wise, there is an extra effect of flowers and birds under Jichuan feet when a formation is activated. Now that we finished with the first mechanic, let's go to the second mechanic, 3 power synergy. At the start of battle, Jichuan grants 3 power mark, Heaven, Earth, and Mortal, to the following allied sinner. Heaven mark to the combat tendency sinner with the highest attack behind Jichuan, Earth mark to the allied sinner with the highest HP in front of Jichuan, and Mortal mark to Jichuan herself. Each mark will grant the following effect. Heaven mark grants skill damage plus 10 to 20% as well as elemental damage plus 25 to 50% with a bit of downside that the elemental damage cannot crit. Elemental damage includes burn, electrocution, wind gnaw, and frostbite. As of the date of this video, frostbite currently only has a Yiguo on the team and electrocution is still sucked ours with no synergy between each other. Wind gnaw is kinda fun with Xiaofeng as the carry and she also an overlimit sinner, giving an extra synergy with Jichuan. But in my opinion, the highest tier at the moment are Burn with Yao Reforge as the carry. So if you want to see Jichuan at her best, play with Burn. Next, Earth Mark grant defense and magic resistance plus 2% per second and can be stacked 15 times. This effect will be reset upon movement. It also allows to store 30% of the damage taken by the Mark Bearer. If the store value exceeds 4% of the bearer's HP, the bearer consumes 4% HP per second to offset it. Now, if you're waiting for my explanation about this part, I prepare nothing, because I don't care and I think you shouldn't too. So let's move on. Last is Mortal Mark aka Jichuan herself. It increased her energy recovery speed by 1.6 times. This will matter later on her exclusive. And by later, I mean right now. When 3 powers formation enters activated state, the 3 power mark will also enters activated state, indicated by the letters shining bright red. And to clarify, only the mark that match with the current formation in use will be activated. For example, if Jichuan deploys a heavenly formation, then only heaven mark that's going to be activated. So if you're wondering why in the suspect pursuit or some people can have 2 marks shine bright red, is because of Jichuan shackles. Once activated, the mark will gain this corresponding effect. Activated heaven mark. When the bearer deals an elemental damage, Jichuan deals additional damage of the same type to that enemy equal to 10, 15 or 20% of the original damage. Activated Earth Mark allows the bearer to share 5, 7.5 to 10% of damage taken by other allied sinners. And last is Activated Mortal Mark. When the Heaven Bearer casts Ultimate, the Mortal Bearer aka Jichuan will restore the energy or chief energy if you're using over limit consumed by that ultimate based on Jichuan's energy recovery speed bonus times 50, 75 to 100%. This effect can be triggered one time per activated state. To put it simply, it allows your main DPS to activate their ultimate one more time, which is a very powerful effect. The question is, will it be possible for Jichuan alone to reach the 100% energy recovery speed bonus? Well, it's time for some math. Assuming that all of Jichuan's skill is level 10, first, Jichuan gains 10% from her mania intensify, and then plus 40% while she is in mortal formation and the formation is activated, and last, increased by 1.6 times from the mortal mark. This gives you an 80% energy recovery bonus at Shackle 0. If you want to go further, you can unlock her Shackle 2, which grant her another plus 10% of energy recovery speed. Then you will end up in energy recovery speed plus 96%. In conclusion, this is the closest you can get without other external effects like Crime Brand or other Sinner's ability. Personally, I wouldn't bother to even try to get to 100%, as 96% is near a full refund. And even if I get to 100%, my finger is not nimble enough to recast the ultimate immediately. Last, for formality, Activated Mortal Mark also has one additional effect. When the Earth Bearer casts their ultimate, the Mortal Bearer aka Jichuan clears the stored damage on the Earth Mark Bearer. This effect can be triggered one time per activated state. That's basically Jichuan's main mechanic. Before we are moving to the showcase, there is one more small thing Jichuan brings to the team, and it's her normal attack. Her normal attack deals 58 to 116% damage to an enemy within skill range. This damage is counted as Win Now damage. Win Now damage applies one stack of Win Now mark on the enemies, which will reduce their defense by 0.5% for 3 seconds and can be stacked 20 times. Essentially, it's a 10% defense reduction at maximum stack, which is nice to have if you are playing physical team or Win Now team. Indicator wise, you can check this green mark on the enemy with a number indicating how many stack of Win Now mark they has. Okay, it's time for showcase and see if Jichuan really is that good. As I mentioned, Burn seems to be the go team to draw Jichuan maximum potential, so I did the same run with the same team in the Lee Chen video. The only difference is that I replaced LL with Jichuan. Result wise, it's roughly the same where I can get 25 second clear easy, so I can't tell any difference because of the boss is too squishy. So I switched the boss to Rewinding Curse, which has higher magic resistance, and that's when I start to feel the difference. First, without Jichuan, my Hestia is a bit struggling to clear the mobs as soon as possible, sometimes even resulting in a leak. Yao also need to sacrifice to kill the boss. I ended up consistently killing the boss around 31 seconds. With Jichuan, there are a lot of improvement. First, I put Yao and Hestia behind Jichuan so they gain the Heaven Mark. This results in Hestia dealing more burn damage and clear enemies much faster thanks to Jichuan elemental damage Amper, giving more room for me to breathe. Yao also able to kill the boss with a single ultimate, from about 75% HP no less. I mean, look at this. That is so satisfying. I believe this is thanks to the 40% attack boost from activated Heavenly Formation more than the others. Why? It's because during this test run, my Yao is still unreforged. So, unlike Hestia, Yao can't fully take advantage of the elemental damage Amper. And the skill damage amper offered by LL is still stronger than Jichuan, which is plus 30%, and yet Yao still able to deal more damage with Jichuan. In the end, I managed to consistently kill the boss within 28 seconds. Unreforged Yao, despite of not taking full advantage of Jichuan elemental damage amper and still doing more damage, should be enough evidence that Jichuan is still a good addition to even non-elemental team. So if you're still wondering, does Jichuan only good with elemental team? The answer is a resounding no. But for more clarity, let's do a bit of comparison between Jichuan with other supports. If you compare it with general support like Enver or Cabernet, I know, they kinda outdated. Jichuan still offer more support even if you remove the elemental damage. If you compare Jichuan with a top tier buffer like LL, the attack boost Jichuan offer is way higher that I believe is still outdamage LL skill damage advantage. Compare her with Shin, Jichuan attack boost also still higher. While Shin is more in favor of normal attack damage, but since Shin is the best healer and you always need a healer, why don't you bring them together? To put it simply, in terms of damage support, Jichuan arguably the best out of everyone. In a long fight like Tide of Ashes, my burn team also managed to deal a lot more damage. I ended up with new record of 30 million damage. That's 4 million damage more compared to the one in Lichen video with the same team composition. However, when doing the test in Tide of Ashes, I realized to Jichuan intended mechanic which I completely forgot despite of I'm making this guide. And that is formation switching. It's gonna make sense, don't you think? In a fight which only lasts about 30 seconds, you probably can only do one Jichuan ultimate. Naturally, you are going to go for Heavenly Formation because, damage. But what about in a long fight? Is there any possibility of switching around or using other formation is more efficient than just stick with Heavenly Formation through the fight? If you remember, Jichuan activated Mortal Mark allows her to refund the energy consumed by Heaven Mark Bearer. Essentially is a double ultimate for your main DPS. But if you're a casual player that only going to keep everything simple by choosing Heavenly Formation all the time, like me, then there is no point of raising this exclusive except for some extra damage who only benefit elemental team. Meaning, in order for you to have decision to raise her exclusive to level 3 is either you want that extra elemental damage it over, or you know how and when to use activated Mortal Mark. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to this. I'm not a Molder content creator and the time is too short for me to figure it out. No, actually I'm just lazy. However, I still can offer you a solution. And that solution is called, you ready? Shackle 4. Shackle 4 basically make Mortal Formation to be in use permanently. Thus, you can use Heavenly Formation all the time without care. I retry my broken frontline run after getting Shackle 4, and since now Hestia can use her ultimate 2 times every time, clearing waves of enemy becomes much faster, pushing further my score to 25 seconds. In Tide of Ashes, I have more leisure for core breaking due to the plus 40% energy recovery speed bonus, leaving out some empower for extra Yao ultimate at the end, and increase my new score to 35 million. Some notes, the double ultimate doesn't work on Yao, since she immediately refills her energy after sacrifice with her own effect. And if you activate it after sacrifice for the falling sun, it still doesn't work. Furthermore, energy restoration effect only activate one time, even if you have 2 Sinner with Heaven Mark. So make sure you cast the other Heaven Mark Bearer ultimate first before Yao. To conclude, Shackle 4 is highly recommended. Skill priority start with her ultimate, then passive 2, since both are the main mechanic of Jichuan. Then passive 1 for ultimate enhancement and last is normal attack. For exclusive crime rank, I would say level 1 to 3, depend on whether you want to learn how to use Mortal Mark or not. If you know how to or have access to Shackle 4, where the Mortal Formation is permanent, then definitely level 3. For crime brand set, go for energy set like Otherworld, Dreamflower plus Inversion Slash. More energy basically more ultimate, which also means more time in activated state for both the formation and mark. This is really good especially in long battle. If you speed running in broken front line, then the standard initial energy would work, giving you the possibility to cast her ultimate twice in even a 30-second fight. Alternatively, you can give Jichuan any standard support crime brand like Nomad or Afterglow. Nomad is good since most likely you will use Empower and Over Limit with Jichuan. While Afterglow, even though it has a 20-second cooldown, it can line up nicely with Jichuan ultimate if you have her Shackle 2 or pair with Pyral Rebirth slot 3, making it an auto timer. Last is quite situational, which is Paradise Regain, if you need the extra core break in bosses like that of Ashes. Shackle 0 Jichuan is work fine, but I feel like you will miss the party if you stay Shackle 0, so here is some notable Shackle in my opinion. Shackle 1, Passive 2 Heaven Mark now granted to 2 combat tendency Elite Sinner, and the bearer gain additional 50% elemental damage. This is a good value if you are playing elemental team and there are 2 elemental damage dealer. Less valuable if you run non-elemental and hyper carry team in which the team focusing on one sinner to deal all the damage, making the second Heaven Mark kinda pointless. Shackle 2 Energy Recovery Speed plus 10%, contributing to activated Mortal Mark energy restoration and also helps to line up Jichuan ultimate with 20-second cooldown of some Crime Brand. Shackle 3, when Jichuan deals damage, apply skill damage taken plus 4% to the enemy's hit and can be stacked 6 times. Basically, yay, more damage. It doesn't interest me personally and less valuable if you run normal attack sinner like Augustus, Bianca or Nox. Shackle 4, when entering battle, Jichuan gain 18 energy and Mortal Mark permanently in use. This is the game changer. Highly recommended even for casual as it bypasses some of Jichuan learning curve. Seriously guys, get it. Shackle 5 is a bit long but not complicated really. First, the Mortal Bearer, aka Jichuan, gains the buff effect of Heaven and Earth Mark in Passive 2. At the start of battle, Jichuan determines the Heaven Touch type she used based on the elemental type most Elite Sinner has. If there are multiple elemental type, one will be chosen randomly. Now, the actual effect. When Mortal Formation enters activated state, when Jichuan normal attack hits, trigger one instant of Heaven Touch in the enemy's grid. Heaven Touch includes Touch of Burn, Touch of Electrocution, Touch of Wind Gnaw, and Touch of Frostbite. Each of them basically has the same effect. Deals 100% of Jichuan attack to all enemies within the 3x3 area, plus applying their corresponding mark. This gives Jichuan a wave clearing capability that I'm pretty surprised is actually really strong. But only if you run with an elemental sinner. So it's some extra that you can have but not a must. Alright Chief, we are near the end of the video. If you find the video helpful, don't forget to drop a like, comment and subscribe for more Path to Nowhere content. My name is Kaiza and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.